Hi, this is Mark Jones, and in this webcast I'm going to show you how you can perform field extraction by CEF type using the Splunk Phantom SOAR product. I'll also show you why you might want to do that. Okay, so here we have our Phantom instance, and if I go and have a look at the events, I've only got one event here, which is the one that we will act on. It's got multiple artifacts, so we'll just click into those, and you see each of these artifacts has a number of fields. So this one just got a destination IP address. This artifact has got a destination IP address, but it's also got host name, it's got a port, it's got a source IP address. Next one has also got destination IP address, but it's called DST, and a source IP address called SRC. And then, as you can see, you get the picture, right? So there's lots of different ways to represent IP addresses. All right, so what we're going to do is run a couple of playbooks against this container, which is made up of many artifacts with various different IP addresses and a few other fields as well for good measure. So the first of these playbooks just performs a whois, a reverse DNS lookup, and a geolocate on the IP address. And if we have a look at the actual action, you'll see that each action operates on something called the destination address. So if we go to each one of these actions, again, destination address, and again, destination address. So pretty common, that to do that in a typical playbook. If we look at the second playbook, you'll see that we do the same thing. We're using whois IP, lookup IP, and geolocate IP. But before we do that, we're using a custom function that I've written called extract by type. So we'll see what the impact of this is shortly. And then there's a couple of other elements to this playbook which just do some logging, which you'll see as well. And then before the extract by type, I've got a prompt which will actually just prompt the user to say, hey, what type of data do you want to extract? This is the custom function as well, so it just shows you the definition. It just takes the container and the data type, which in our case we'll input from that prompt, and then there's an output. So we'll see that in action shortly. Okay, so the first of those playbooks, what we'll do is we'll run that against this set of artifacts, or this container, and see what comes out in the activity. So we'll hit run playbook. There's the simple IP lookup. Remember, it only operated on destination address. So we'll just hit run on that playbook, and we'll see that it's performed as we expect, the whois IP, the lookup, and geolocate. If we go and look at the timeline, we can see the results of that. And as you would expect, if we just go and look at one of these results, you'll see that there's only two IP addresses that have been worked on, so 10777 and 10333. Again, if we go back and have a look, at the artifacts that made up that container, so there's the 10333 because it was called destination address. And the next one along, there's 10777 because it was called destination address. So it's behaving as we expect. The problem is there are lots of other IP addresses in here. So our next playbook, what it does is it will allow you to use something called the CEF type. So if we just quickly let's just have a look at the fields that make up this second event, this second set of artifacts. If I just open them up and click edit artifact, you'll see there's something called data type. And here you'll see that destination address has got a data type of IP. dhost has got a data type of host name. dpt, port, and source address also has a CEF data type of IP. So this is what our second playbook does. It allows you to select CEF data types to operate, to basically select the fields on which the operations will take place. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to run this second playbook, and you'll see that at the top here you get what to extract, so a prompt to to say, hey, what sort of data do you want to extract? So in this case, we'll just say, I'll extract the IP data, thanks. And you'll see on the left-hand side now, we'll actually get prompted, we'll get shown what we've extracted. So again, if we go to that who is, for example, you'll now see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 IP addresses that have been extracted. You can also see the objects that have been extracted as a comment. So what we've done here is actually extracted by type. And again, if we go back to have a look at the artifacts, you can see where those IP addresses are. So destination address is still an IP of type IP, but then again, so is source address, and so is SRC, DST, and destination translated address, source translated address. These are all of type IP. You also notice that there's another set of IP addresses here in this field, which is a list. And if we go and again, if we go and have a look at this artifact, you'll see that it's got a data type of IP list. So if we rerun the playbook and this time say, okay, as well as IP, let's just go to that prompt again. You don't have to use the prompt. You can obviously pass this through some other way, but let's extract the IP based fields, but we'll also extract IP list based fields. Hit complete. And now you'll see the activity on the left hand side. We've got even more IP objects that have come out. Again, if we go and look at who is, now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 IP addresses. That's because we've also extracted the IP addresses from that IP list. And finally, if we wanted to, we could obviously extract other types of data. So I'll run this again. Obviously, in this case, it may not make sense to do this, but you could also extract something like host name and port. Again, because we're going to be performing IP-based actions, then this obviously is going to fail, but it's just to show you that we can extract anything, right? So, by type. So here we've got extracted objects list is the port number that was in there, and we can see the host name. And obviously, because these actions expect an IP address, they'll fail because they're performing their action against something that isn't of the right type. But again, this is just to show you that it's possible to extract by any type. Okay, hope that was useful. If you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to email me, splunkcast@resimplify.net. Thanks.